is this real or am I just imagining it? And same response from me. It doesn't matter. Just go with it.
Yeah.
But deepening the relationship brings us closer to actually feeling nature in a way that we haven't felt before. And
Hi everyone, I'm Aaron. This is Tammy, and we have Michael here, and we're going to talk about using your imagination to deepen your connection with nature. And Michael, I know you just wrote a blog post about this, and my first question is why deepen our connection with nature?
you know, nature is something that we all have a connection to, or most people do, right? I mean, we love to be in nature. We find it calming or exciting. People who ski, you know, get the thrill from being out in nature. People who swim love to be in the water. Whatever our relationship is to nature, through gardening or just taking walks outside, it's just natural and normal for people to gravitate towards having a connection with nature. And connection is something that's, you know, front and center for a lot of people now, I think, not just to nature, and maybe for most people they're not even thinking about that, but connection with other people, because it's something that over the last, what's it been, 10, 12, 15 years, it's slipped away from our experience enough to make people aware of it and having real life experiences, actually sitting with somebody and enjoying them and learning about them is the same as being in nature, enjoying nature and learning about nature. What does nature have to teach us? What's the information there? And that's part of how our work is with nature. What does nature have to teach us?
Right.
What's the information that we don't have that nature does have, but nature wants to communicate to us? And part of that information has to do with using our imagination to help us break through the limitations of our mind, because we all have limitations. You don't think that you can elevate off of this sofa in your physical form. I don't think you can do that either, and you don't need to unless you're some advanced yogi. Maybe you could do it then, but like, what's the point, right? That's not even a requisite in your life or my life or most people's lives. But there are other limitations that we have just naturally by the way that we perceive the world and live in the world that keep us from being more deeply connected, number one, with nature, and secondarily to other things, to people and to other experiences. We have limits. We just have limits. It's part of how the mind works. And nature has given us an exercise recently that's really, you've been doing it more than I have, bless your heart. And it works really well, as do all these exercises that nature's given us over the last few decades. It's simple, it's easy to do, and it expands the imagination in a way that our normal traditional imagination doesn't exactly work, because nature joins in with the imagination process. Nature's part of the engagement of our imagination, in essence, helps pump it up and makes it something that otherwise it normally isn't, even though it's great on its own, but it becomes much more of a tool.
Right, it's almost like where we put our focus and intention, the energy flows, but even more, you have this intelligent consciousness who is responding in this imagination exercise. I mean, that's partially what I've been experiencing while doing that the last couple of weeks. So kind of this idea of connecting more with nature, it sounded a lot like there's so much to learn from the nature that we could use in our own world, in our worlds, because we just know how messy things are, and you know our lack of understanding and ignorance can cause problems and issues for other people and creatures and all beings, and I can see why having a deeper connection with nature is so important, so that we can learn and apply that. And I know that's why the Sulphur Mountain Road, like that's what we believe in, we really care about, and why we created the solutions. And I just love that nature, you know, I know this, you worked with nature on this blog post, and nature gave you this information and gave you this exercise to help us out, and people that would be interested in this. And can you talk about just the idea, like this idea of imagination, and how it's not like you're imagining butterflies or some fantasy, but it's seems more like a tool. And that's how I've been using it more, of like allowing new places for my mind to go where those limits were preventing me from going. Yeah, can you just talk more about that? Yeah.
Right, because there's our imagination of fantasy. These, children do this all the time. It's how they play and how they learn to think about the world in a different way. They do imagine butterflies floating around, or that they are a fairy, or that they are a warrior, and they're fully engaged in that. That's their imagination and their emotions and their intellect. This is full engagement, and that's what this imagination exercise similarly does for us as adults. It creates a full engagement with the imagination and nature, but to do something very, very specific, which is to help us break through the limitation that we have about what's possible. And this is a kind of exercise that can be transferred to other topics than, not simply, it's not simple, but other topics than just connecting and deepening our relationship to nature. Like, it's transferable, but I would start there. That's the place to start, because that's the origin of the design of the exercise. And what happens with this type of imagination, because if you do the exercise once and you just let it be, there's a slight structure to it, but there's not a suggestion of what to think about, but then you just let it go and let your literally imagination create whatever will be created. And it might be completely illogical to you, but that's fine, because that's sort of partly what we're looking for, is to help the mind learn that what can appear illogical and maybe fantastical or kind of crazy or not make a lot of sense to it in its normal day-to-day logic stream, and this is how things work, and the world and gravity and all of this stuff is in place for a very good reason. In the imagination, like the dreamscape, the rules are off, basically.
Right.
And because you're not dreaming, you're not meditating, you're having an imagination experience that, again, is impacted by nature's encouragement to helping massage your mind and just slightly, gradually, you do this over time, but into a slightly different location than it has been. That helps your mind expand to something that's possible that previously was not even possible in terms of experience. You might have read about it,
right? But
experientially, you weren't able to do it, and that's the big difference.
Yeah,
it's the experiential part. Like, you actually do experience through your imagination this deeper connection, this broader awareness, this more open view than you normally have.
100%. That's exactly what I felt while doing the imagination exercise. And was that like this world, the physical world or the form world, is not as nailed down for me as much as it was. It's a little bit looser, like things could change, which is like my logic is loosening. And I also noticed I'm like more confident in like my garden work. And I kind of feel like going into other areas of my life of just being more responsible. I'm not quite sure how it translated, but probably like your point you're saying, how it just naturally shifts over to other areas of your life when you practice it here, in this one connection with nature. And I had a beautiful experience of connecting, like literally just feeling me hug nature and walking side by side, which was just so touching, of just feeling like this old friendship that I was just experiencing, which is so different than reading about, intellectualizing about it, but to experience it and feel it. And it was really beautiful. And I go to that space like when I work in my garden as like partners, and it's really beautiful. So what exactly is for people who might be curious, like what is our nature imagination exercise? Do you want to?
Well, you've been doing it. I can say it, but yeah, you want to describe what it is?
Yeah. So basically, like Michael said, it's really simple. It's the suggestion is like 15 minutes. Sit down, and then just visualize or feel. Oh, Oh, she had her claw stuck.
Oh, no, it's okay.
It's okay, sweetie. She gets scared.
Yeah,
She gets scared when it gets stuck.
yeah, you're okay. Good girl.
You okay? It's okay, Rex. The cats are joining in the conversation.
Good girl.
Good girl. So yeah, the nature imagination exercise is very simple. It was created that way, of just spending 15 minutes of visualizing or feeling or sensing, kind of allowing whatever comes to your mind of your connection with nature. And for me, it was like a focus. So I just focused on that. And then it was like an allowing, of just allowing wherever that wants to go. And I just tried not to set any rules and would just let it go wherever it wanted to. And then outside of, so then you do that daily. You know, sometimes I do it for 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Sometimes it was great, so I'd linger for like 20 minutes. But then you go about your day. You point. You sit there, you concentrate on that exercise, go about your day. And then I noticed I wanted to get more physical with it. So I actually started doing it at my garden. And sometimes I would do movements or dances or like qigong kind of movements while I was focused on my connection with nature. And or I would just like walk around my garden as if I was walking with my hand on the back of a horse. And that's kind of my visual of feeling in partnership with nature and that deep connection. And I know you gave other suggestions, like people could journal about it, do some art, write a song. Basically, and I did notice like creativity naturally has flowed more since I started doing this exercise. So it makes sense that like the second prompt is to allow yourself to do whatever creative thing you're feeling pulled to do, which I just love. I mean, it makes sense because nature's so involved with creativity, right, Rex?
Hi, Rexy.
Oh, he's so cute. And yeah, and that I wasn't expecting, and I just love, and it's just yeah. So it's a beautiful exercise. You know, I've found a new, deeper motivation of working with nature in my garden. That just feels so aligned in me that I actually caught myself saying one evening, like, wow, I feel like I'm living life. Which I've always been living, but there's some sort of managing and surviving, and this felt different, like I was in a new place. We're like, wow, I feel me coming through and expressing. So, highly recommend it. And I've only been doing it for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
You know, I can't wait to see where it goes even more. And I'll even share like a little bit more is like that one of the things I think is important is like stability. I've noticed for myself personally that because pushing these limits can be challenging if you're not grounded and stable. So I really, like the last couple of days, I really had to just kind of take a break and just get a little bit more stabilized before I allowed some extravagant thing or felt brave to go further in the imagination exercise. So I would recommend that as well, as if you have your tools. The solutions are fantastic for stabilizing and supporting this kind of expanded awareness. That's why I think nature gave this exercise as well, as it pairs nicely with our Sun, Earth, and Ocean solutions. So yeah, that's kind of been my experience with the imagination exercise.
Right, and you're bringing up a really important point in terms of how expanding the imagination fundamentally works, because it does shift us when done in this particular way. It can shift you in normal ways with using one's imagination. Often we have a point of awareness and of creativity, for example, or a solution to something because we're thinking more creatively and we're open to more possibilities. So we get an answer to something that we've been striving for, and that shifts us, that changes us. It's kind of the point of life. We're not meant to be static, I don't think. We're meant to continue to evolve and to grow. And the imagination, that's something that's so natural. It's so natural that kids who are pre-verbal have imaginations. I mean, we're born fundamentally with this capacity and ability. And as adults, there are techniques available beyond this exercise that can help expand our creative thinking and our imagination particularly. And just to underscore this point about nature joining in with this process that makes it different from kind of everything else one would do, is why, if for no other reason, try this exercise for that. Try it to feel, however it might feel to you, to feel nature working with you. And just you, like when you do the exercise, nature is working with you. For me, nature works in a different way. I'm a different person, and that's true for everybody who would do this exercise. It doesn't matter how many millions and millions of people who would theoretically do it. Nature works differently in a custom way with each of those individuals. That's extraordinary when you think about it. And it's why this exercise can be so successful, because it's fine-tuned to what you need. And because the person doing the exercise sets up in their own thinking their relationship about nature. Like, what do they like about nature? Is it abstract? Is it real? Whatever it is, they create that, and nature moves in with that idea and helps start to expand it.
And like meets them where they are.
Yeah.
And then expands it.
Yeah. And so that's golden for me. And it doesn't, again, you can do this for 5 or 10 minutes. We suggest 15 because that's what nature said, but nature also was like, fit it into your world, fit it into your life. There's not a magical amount of time here. What really matters is what happens afterwards. Like you're saying, there's a processing period. And it's why there was this secondary part to the exercise of like, when nature started by saying, remind people or suggest that they take notes. And I was like, oh, like write down.
I actually been keeping notes of every session. It helps ground it. And
initially it was like, yes, just write down in language notes. And then they said, or they could dance, or they could make a picture of some kind. They could draw, they could paint, they could sing, they could, any form of expression that would mimic some version of what they're experiencing with the imagination exercise helps ground the experience in their consciousness, which is the point.
Wow. Yeah.
Because we want it to be in our awareness.
I need to do that, like the after effect of processing. I was doing more during, but that sounds interesting to kind of embody it and ground it more and help you process it. Yeah. Yeah,
because you're pushing past what you normally know. That's the point, right? We're helping our mind get used to something more than it's experienced.
Right.
And we, in terms of the mind's aspect, we have to help ground that information after the experience so it doesn't just go away.
Right.
Because that could happen.
Right. Yeah, that's beautiful. And I know, like, you've shared this before because you've helped a lot of people who've had, metaphysical experiences, and imagination is, I think, similar, where something outside of our awareness. And you've shared that a lot of people ask you the same question, that is this real or am I imagining this? Which is such a curious question now, because for me, imagination is like such a great tool. And if it's real or imagination, does it matter?
Right. My answer has always been, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I know it matters to you right now. 'Cause
Yeah.
you're trying to have, yes,
Like
it's real.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter, because even if it's not real from the metaphysical standpoint, like you're not having this vision that's genuine 100% top to bottom, side to side, full vision. Yes, you're having it. It's fantastic. Good for you. Congratulations. Even if that is not going on, and I'm just using the vision as one example, even if you're imagining 1% to 99%, it doesn't matter. Imagination is in there to some degree. That's fine, because you're helping your mind adjust to the experience
It's a
itself.
new experience.
Because that's when people start having metaphysical experiences, or an experience, no matter what age they are, that's a new thing.
Yeah.
And it's why the question comes up, because their mind is thinking, this can't be real.
Yeah.
How could this be real? I mean, I've read about this, or I've heard about this, but how could this be happening to me? That's most people's questions. And also with the intuition. I hear this all the time with people's intuition. Is this real, or am I just imagining it? And same response from me. It doesn't matter. Just go with it. Because the imagination piece, whatever percentage that might be there, will eventually solidify into actual full experience. And when that happens, you realize something dropped, the penny drops, like you recognize, oh no, this is a genuine intuitive experience, or this is a genuine metaphysical experience, or genuine psychic experience, whatever it happens to be. The mind is able to incorporate it. And the imagination very often is the vehicle. It's the thing that gets us there. It's such a wonderful gift that we all have this imagination in the way that we do. And, when used in refined ways, it really becomes a tool of our growth. And even, someone might pass this video and listen to it for a little bit and be a little bit curious, and also wonder why. I don't really, nature, sure, but do I need to be more connected to nature? Like, what's the point of having something that's beyond what I already experience? My initial answer is, you should just try it to see what a deeper connection is like, because there kind of aren't words for it. Really.
It's relational.
It is relational. That's particularly the word. Yeah. And people who have a connection to nature and enjoy nature, they already have that relationship. Even if they're not thinking about nature as something larger and sort of conscious in its own way, they talk about, even if they're not aware per se about the specifics of actual relationship in the way that you're suggesting, they talk that way. They feel that way. They love going to this place because it makes them feel this. It's like, oh, you're connecting with this place and it's speaking to you.
Right.
Yeah. What we've learned, not by accident, but by something else, I guess, we have learned that that's an actual thing. Like, you can communicate very clearly with nature intelligence, because it's an intelligence that exists.
Right.
It's not God, but it is the physical world, and represented in the physical world. And anybody can learn to communicate. There are different degrees of communication, like with anything. You start off with the basics, and then you learn more about the language, like if you're learning a foreign language, and then you get better at that, and you can level up in terms of how it all works. But even the basic form of communicating with nature intelligence is extremely valuable. And for example, doing this exercise, this imagination exercise with nature, jumpstarts that communication, I think. That's my assumption.
I've noticed so I can feel my kind of, antenna with nature communication. Like I go to a place in my mind, and that's where I feel I'm plugging in and communicating. And I've noticed since I started the imagination exercise that, like, the frequency or the channel or whatever is just getting clearer. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Just feeling that, I'm like, wow, where's this going to go? So yeah, I can, in my experience, doing that and deepening that connection, feeling the relational, like it's just deeper.
Yeah.
I mean, for lack of a better word, it just, yeah, feeling that relational experience of just so engaged. And I used to think I was pretty connected with nature. Like I would go to the trees and stuff and hug trees, talk to them, and yeah, garden and talk to the plants and stuff. But this was like, this is another level of experiential relationship with nature.
Yeah,
it's beautiful.
And because it's nature isn't emotional.
Yeah.
Because if it were, we'd all be dead. Right? Nature would just be so pissed off. It just would have annihilated all of us.
Yeah.
Off the bat because of what's going on with the planet. But
yeah,
nature doesn't function that way. And so this is one of the reasons it's a little hard in the beginning for people to have this relationship with nature, because we can get very emotional.
Yeah.
But nature's just responding to the questions that we ask.
So much respect to us. Yeah.
So much respect. And it's surprising, I think, sometimes for people that it's clean, and clean is really the word. It's just as clean as it is. But it's also one of the major benefits. It lets us experience this other level of communication with a consciousness that only cares about helping us figure out how to balance things. Like nature's expertise is in balance, and we're not so good at it. So that's what the information is at its core always about, just trying to help humanity become more balanced. And the imagination exercise is one version of that, because it helps us get closer to feeling nature in this way that is within our consciousness, not just in our verbiage, but actually in our awareness. And that is what shifts us. And when that shifts, as happens with anything that really inspires us, it changes how we relate to the world.
Yeah.
Including people, but also the planet. And that deeper connection, both to humans and to the planet itself, is an altered space for people to start living in. They may have already been gravitating towards that. Maybe they're very hugely eco-friendly. Maybe they're doing a lot of earth work. Maybe they are really involved in animal communications and have sweet cats and dogs and relate to them, or maybe even work with them, whatever the thing might be. Or maybe they just love, again, nature, as so many people do. But deepening the relationship brings us closer to actually feeling nature in a way that we haven't felt before. And it's like with a good friend, if you think about the friends that you're really close to versus the people who are nice and they're acquaintances, but you're not that close to them, those two types of relationships feel really different.
Yeah.
And what you can share and what you can ask about and what you can depend on from a relationship, a friendship that's closer and deeper, very different from a relationship that's more casual. Very, very different. And that's what we want with nature. I think. Some people do, not everybody does. But having this deeper relationship that we really are connected with nature deeply over time, even deeper and deeper connections with nature, so that the communication and our understanding about nature grows and expands. And again, that can only happen after a point when our mind is able to move into that space.
Right.
We have to have the space for it. Yeah.
And that's the tool the imagination helps us do. Right. And with nature's response.
Yeah, when I first started working with nature intelligences in the mid-90s or so, I had a lot of involvement with nature intelligence I was a kid, but I didn't know that was specifically what was happening. I learned later. But in the mid-90s, I was actively working in my garden and talking to nature intelligences, and I was being a good student. And everything about how I was working with nature was about a laboratory. I just wanted to learn as much as I could. And when you're communicating with nature and you tell something to nature of what you want to do, it's like saying this to a teacher who's like, "You're a really good student and you want to work this hard? Okay." It's like they are on board and off and running.
Yeah.
And there were things that happened in this garden that weren't beyond explanation entirely, but were wild.
Can I give the metaphor Paralandra gives?
Yeah.
So Paralandra says that when you decide to work in a garden consciously with nature, it's like you sound an orchestra of instruments. you sound the note, and it's that complex and layered and deep, and compared to someone who's just doing a garden who may be well intentioned, or organic gardening, but that's like one instrument.
Yeah.
But when you consciously want to communicate with nature, say, all right, let's do this, and then nature's going to respond with an orchestra back.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I mean, I love this story. I've heard it many times, but just because you're an A student, and the way you describe your garden was just like the abundance overflow, and you were just so locked in, head down, every day, met with nature. Anyway, do you want to tell more about it? But.
Well, the thing that was, I guess, the most surprising about the experience, well, I didn't know what to expect, really, truly. So I guess from a very naive place, I walked into my garden every morning, and there was a point after things got set up, that took about 3 months or so, that I would walk out the door and walk into the garden, and on a certain level, almost everything would have changed. Would have looked the same, but the energy was just shifted, like something had happened during the night. And sometimes there would be manifestations of like whiteflies all over, like the garden would be filled with whiteflies. Or this insect, that insect, snails, all kinds of things, not all together. It was always like sort of these themed manifestations would happen like once a week or something. And I'd walk out and I'd be like, I don't know what to do with this. Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? And I learned that it's a thing. This is what's happening right now.
Right.
Have a conversation with a whitefly if you want to, or all of them. But this is just a process that's going on in the garden. And a couple of days later, all the whiteflies would be gone. Most of the time, I didn't really do anything at all. And that happened again and again and again, because nature was bringing this whole garden into balance. And there was all of this stuff that had to go on that I didn't understand at all.
Incredible, yeah.
And so that was fun and crazy, and helped teach me not to react, to be patient and to watch and observe and ask questions, but also kind of just see the natural form and understand that when you're working with nature in a garden, there are lots of things science has figured out about fertilizers and watering patterns and what plants should not be planted next to each other, and all of that information is really good. I've had nature when I had a garden. I'm just like convinced nature did this to prove something to me in a nice way. But had me plant plants next to each other. Then the book over here said, "Don't ever do that. This is disaster."
Oh, that's funny.
And they would both flourish.
Wow. I just planted like non-organic plants because that's what nature picked, and I'm like, I think nature, you picked this so I can be more open, not just to organic, but to all forms of whatever's needed for my garden's balance.
Because we don't know.
We don't know.
Exactly.
We don't know. Yeah.
And that's part of the opening up that happens when you start working, I think, just with nature in general, but especially if you're not completely wedded to a system or a format, if you're open to what nature's response is to the soil that you're working with, if you're working in a garden. And there's a whole other area, we won't get into it, but nature considers everything a garden. So your career is a garden, your relationship is a garden, how you treat your body is a garden. Nature thinks of, like, to nature, what isn't a garden? Nothing. Everything is a garden. So we can cultivate anything in our life working with nature. Very different conversation, but there's that level of information available.
Right, and and this ties back into, using our imagination to deepen our connection with nature, because nature, from our experience, is the expert on balance. And so why not have a deeper connection with a friend who can give us this information? And I don't even think, if you want to communicate with nature, just having that connection and that energetic exchange, like that flow, is going to influence you in your other areas and make better decisions. And I was going to say something else too about the post-processing period, but it slipped away. If it's important, I'll come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, this is wonderful. I love this topic. Is there anything that you wanted to add or that came up for you? Or?
Well, I think the idea, sort of the difference between grounding and deep grounding, and how some people, when I mentioned the word grounding to some people, they're like, I need that. Like, I almost don't get the whole sentence out of my mouth, and they're like, I need that. I just need it. Like, they know that one of the things they don't have is a sense of feeling grounded in their lives. And then other people are like, yeah, I feel pretty grounded. They, from their perspective, they feel grounded. I'm not going to argue with them, because maybe they are. It's great. Good for you. Fantastic. But people who have this other response, like, I don't feel grounded. How do I get more grounded? Lots of available techniques to get more grounded.
So many,
for sure. But I tend to push the question to, well, if you could be grounded, would you be interested in learning a little bit about deep grounding? Because that's a different level. And it's also something that becomes sustainable.
And continuous.
Yeah. Which is the thing that this exercise helps us learn with nature, of changing the degree of connection with nature, so it becomes continuous, which that is something that's pretty rare.
Yeah.
For indigenous cultures, that was their way of life. They were just immersed in nature, and dependent upon nature.
Some tribes didn't have a word for nature.
Right.
There was no separation.
No separation whatsoever. And of course, the modern world, the opposite is true. We bring plants inside.
Right.
To have a plant in our living room or something. Like nature, which is fine. It's all good, but that's
just where we're at.
It's where we are. But anybody can learn to have this continuous, ongoing experience.
Yeah.
So the same richness of experience a person might have, spending a week camping or whatever it might be in nature, and how fulfilling that is and how rich that is, that deeper sense can be something that is with a person without interruption, no matter where they are, no matter what they're doing. That's a remarkable thing to think about, and it's an even more extraordinary thing to experience.
Right, you write about that in the blog post, about this kind of idea of separation of inside and outside.
Right.
And doing the exercise, I do feel this continuous. I didn't quite believe it. I was like, really?
Yeah.
I go work downtown. I'm in here. I love going up to the trees at Griffith Park. Love going to my garden. And there's a clear line of like, this energy feels better, But since I've done the imagination exercise, I do feel that continuous connection. Here, I felt it at work last week when I was in downtown LA.
Wow.
And I was kind of like, wow.
Yeah.
What else am I limiting? Almost kind of feels like, but I was like, okay, hold on, process one thing at a time. I already need to get more stability, but yeah, I'm a believer now that is. It's amazing. It's incredible to feel that, when you're in a concrete jungle and you're like, wow, I feel nature here with me.
Yeah. It's when you think about where we are now and in time and in relationship to nature, this experience of the continuing connection with nature, continuous connection with nature, is very ancient.
Yeah.
It's how the world, as we were saying a moment ago, many cultures, just that's what they were.
Right.
They were dependent upon the nature,
the rhythms, the patterns, the seasons. Yeah.
They learned from nature.
Right.
They communicated in their own ways with nature, and so they had this ongoing relationship. It was just, there was no interruption to it. And then gradually, as civilization became more modernized, that changed and it went away. So this exercise, in a very real way, is connecting you to the ancient version of what life was here. I mean, we have this idea, this continuous connection with nature is really, I think, residing with all of us. Our mind just isn't on board with it.
Right.
Because it's grown up in a civilized world where that's not true, and we go out into nature.
Right.
We set up time.
Going hiking, going camping.
Yeah.
Which is all great, and it's easier, but yeah, there's Yeah, I think I love this idea because it's like you don't have to wait for permission for the world to become a better place.
Yeah.
You can just start doing it now with our imagination.
Yeah.
And it's almost kind of like a what do you call it? A radical act of helping to balance this world, or heading into, or as some people say, we're like ushering in a new world. And it feels very connected to this. We can do that now as individuals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great point.
Yeah.
All right.
Imagining a deeper connection with nature. With Michael and Aaron.
Yeah.
And Tammy.
Thank you for joining us, Tammy.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, sweetheart. Do you have anything to say about using your imagination? Imagining a deeper connection with nature? Do you want me to imagine more kitty treats for you?
You could start there. Good girl.
I love you, sweetheart. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us. Please comment, let us know what you liked about this conversation. So we'll keep doing this for future months and future themes, and yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Have a little tea.
Yeah.
Well, you had your tea already.
I had my